Greetings, Underhive dwellers. Today I am making a doctor's surgery for my Necromunda. I say my Necromunda. I don't own the game. I meant my own Necromunda collection, which of course I will be supplying to our local Necromunda campaign. We're on our second campaign now. I've got a massive target painted on my back because I'm currently in the lead yet again with my Goliaths. Apparently toughness 5 is really dirty. We will go into that. A little bit of a hobby break for a while because I was destroying and rebuilding my man space. So rather than the 1980s like Welsh dresser that's normally behind me, I now have a nicer set of shelves displaying all of my shame. I've got a lot more space off camera up there to display a few armies possibly, and a couple more behind me as well. So I've got my white dwarfs, which I can chuck. I just really can. I had them all stacked out in front of me, and then proceeded to spend pretty much a day flicking through them all rather than actually sorting them out. So they're staying. Yeah, I was half tempted to film what I'm doing with my man space, ripping down the walls, putting some IKEA shelves, some really fancy storage units, things like that. I wasn't entirely sure if you guys would be interested in that kind of video at all. I've taken pictures. I might get around to doing it if you guys are ever interested. But back on the subject at hand, the doctor's surgery. I use surgery in a loose term. It's basically a chop shop, so it's like half butchers, I suppose, and maybe half garage rather than actually a surgery. That's what I've got envisioned in my mind. There's a few bits I've always wanted to try. I was always tempted to make like a Wild West saloon style with the swinging doors from my second Gang Stronghold kit, because I really like those swinging doors. I never got around to doing that. I made a small series of bars instead that I could add to my hive rather than have an individual building. I do feel like buildings, for me personally, in my hive shouldn't be too big. But there is a bar fight scenario. Yes, they do suggest you can use the inside of your box lid, but I was always tempted to make a bar with proper saloon doors. I may yet get around to that, but I can imagine my surgery having like a waiting room, like a deli counter. You are now being served. Swinging doors, a surgeon's table possibly. And maybe some messy buckets just full of organs and things like that going out the back. Probably for the meat grinders, for that lovely tasty corpse starch. So that's what I've got in my mind at the minute. And I've got a load of terrain bits still left over. I shouldn't buy any more. It's given me more of a challenge. If you are born in the 80s, I suppose, Art Attack may have been a thing when you were growing up and you just had a big box of bits, and that's what I'm going to do. Rather than buying stuff to make, I'm going to make stuff from components I already have. So we will see. So even a scumbag in the Underhive needs healthcare, and I'm sure they've all got insurance, right? And all the healthcare consists of, you know, completely clean and sterile dressings, I'm sure. Band-aids have not been reused and slightly pussy, and totally not an ear, nail, or anything like that. So, where do I begin? With this objectives sprue from Games Workshop. So, these look great. They got loads of things on there, from like some kind of radar tower, some supplies, some weapon supplies and relics, things like that. What I'm really interested in is the doctor medic-y looking things. So this surgery table and looks like cutting implements with possibly gas and air. If you're lucky, it's probably just sucking out the worst bits, not giving them any painkillers. So I'm going to clip these off the sprue. I'm going to assemble them. I've had loads of things in my bits box for ages that I've been meaning to use. I have got the Monitorium armoured containers that I can easily turn into a building for Necromunda, but I'm trying to stay away from that because I've done loads of buildings based on that before, which is fine, totally fine. I've got my Admiral snack bar. I've got a half of one used as my Muff dive bar. I've got glory holes. It sounds really classy, my underhive, doesn't it? I'm really bigging it up. But they can be easily made into like your food shacks, your food wagons, weapon selling places, things like that. But armory, for a better word. I don't know why my brain decided to have a funny 5 seconds there. But I'm trying to stay away from it, and I'm trying to use up pieces I wouldn't normally use. So, for example, columns and walls. Use a load of columns. Walls, on the other hand, I don't use so much. So sticking 2 wall sections together, cutting off these little magnetizey bits. They're the little circly sections that you can glue a magnet in, so you can connect a pipe to on the other side. Super easy. Trying to make the wall kind of flush so I can decorate the inside of this surgery. So I'm going to start gluing these kind of things together. I have some old bulkheads that I've cut up before in the past. I can hear Hendy Badger right now crying because I've cut up bulkheads. But I had loads of them, Ian. It's fine. It's fine. If I ever start cutting up the original 90s ones, I think I will see people outside with pitchforks and flaming torches coming for me. So I will be cutting those up, people. Don't worry. And I found loads of little bits I'll be keeping for years, like this, which was an ode. You click a button here, like a little mini torch, which is great for my profession. Took the batteries out. I'm thinking this would be a great gas canister. So maybe find some gauges to stick on there, make a little regulator. It would be pretty fun. So I've got kind of a rough kind of thing what I want to do. So let's try it. Let's try making some stuff from some random bits from my bits box and try not to use the armoured containers, even though it's right next to me, looking at me, and it can be super easy to do. So I'm trying to stay away from the easy stuff. Let's get creating. So shaved off all the little mould lines and weird spruey bits. I'm going to start assembling the main piece. So, having misplaced the instructions a long time ago, if there was any instructions at all, I'm going to put the smaller wheel of the tracks on the back. These tracks are pretty cool by themselves. You could have like some kind of weird orc dock or something on tracks. You could have some kind of servitor on tracks. So I'm just sticking that on there while that dries. And put a little bit on there. So using good old-fashioned plastic glue. Other plastic glue companies are available. The GW one's pretty good. It's not bad. So making stuff like that. I do like the details on this piece. For example, the servitor dock head that I'm going to stick on this piece now is pretty grim, but it is part of the 40k universe. Look at that handsome chappy. Hang on, let's see if we can turn the light into a more useful position. Look at that. Yeah. It's got a surgical mask on, right? So that means it's like sterile. hygienic. Yeah, why not, right? Do love this piece. Look at that creepy little hand. Slightly limp-wristed. Very, very, very creepy. Definitely what I'm after. So as you're probably aware, nothing is wasted in Necromunda and nothing is wasted in my man room. So, things like these containers, which I have billions of, nearly literally, I'm thinking a first aid kit. So clean the little nibbly bits off so it would sit on the wall nicer, paint it up like a nice first aid kit. I have a few with the top off, so I could have a couple hanging down and have rolls of bandages in there and syringes if needs be. So I'll put that to one side. I'm probably making terrain backwards to most people, i.e. I'm making the gumph to go in the buildings rather than the buildings first. Mainly because I just enjoy assembling stuff, and hopefully the hobby juices will be flowing and the actual main building will come to me. But so many ideas at once, I really don't know where to begin. So like I mentioned previously, the swinging doors. So making sure I'm cleaning up all the mold lines, as obviously you already know. But I really like these doors. They're in the Underhive Stronghold kit for Necromunda. I have done a couple of videos on these already. I've bought a couple of boxes because I thought it was a wicked kit. I've converted the main kit to make a 4-walled, like castellated stronghold. So it's self-sustaining. So I don't believe that a stronghold should have a massive gap in the back, because yes, you got armor-plated walls and doors that are only one way, but then someone can sneak around and just get in there like that. And that's how it's supplied in the box. So if you've got more than one kit, or you're a bit handy with the hobby saw, you can convert it so it's a self-sustaining 4-walled sealed fortress. Originally I bought that because that would be great for 40k, because you're in the middle of the table, you can just plonk this piece in. Whereas if you do have a gang stronghold in the Underhive, it mainly sits in a corner rather than slap bang in the middle. Especially as in the instructions book it actually has a scenario for the stronghold. But in this particular case, I'm just robbing bits off of the second box. So I'll be cleaning all these little hot little bits up, gluing them all together like the hinges and things, and seeing what I can make. What else is good in the surgery? From the same kit, I really like the look of this lamp. So hanging down outside, maybe it could be glowing for when it's open for business, or maybe it's just there to keep some of the nasty critters away to try to stop infection. Yeah, right, like they're going to care about infections. So maybe to keep all the flies and bugs and stuff away. Maybe it's just to say that the chop shop is actually open. So I'm cleaning up all the mold lines, and I'll get to the next stage. So I've come on quite a way, and I really need to stop because I'm getting away with myself. Wasn't going to use those containers, even though they're flipping awesome. I was thinking about using 2 of them side by side, making more of a hab building. That would look more structural, more like it was built originally for purpose, whereas I would prefer my surgery to be cobbled together, kind of a hash of bits and pieces. So I've used the main walkway, but then decided that the double swinging doors would take up too much space. So if they were there, for example, on that side, it is taking up way too much space, and it's kind of in the centre, and then I need to possibly have a bigger building going onwards. So I don't want my buildings being too big in Necromunda, because let's say it's a 3x3 tile, the game that you're playing, if you're taking up nearly a foot, that's a fair chunk of the board. So what I've done is have a single door, swinging door. I've added so far the bulkhead piece that I had, some bits of these left over that I've stuck side by side, and the top of the tower section from the gang stronghold as well. So I've swapped that piece out because where I want the surgeon's chair to go, I want blood to be able to be brushed down into the drain and rush in there and possibly be collected. So I have trimmed the base, so it's the same basic shape but just smaller. So you see more of the grate when I eventually stick it on there, and sticking these together to make an interesting looking staircase. So of course you may recognise these as the joining pieces that go underneath these actual walkways for the Sector Mechanicus. So I have on my OnlyFans video, that's right, you heard me, I've made a spiral staircase with these before and they look pretty cool, so I thought why not do that. Plus adds more strength to this piece here because I didn't want to just connect it in one spot. Go trusty plastic glue though, does bond things rather well. So do I want my door opening in or out? Yeah, I think I want it opening in possibly. So nothing behind there, nothing in the way, maybe a coat rack, or is that a bit too civilised for Necromunda? So I might put something there to stop that from swinging both ways. Not entirely sure. It looks pretty cool either way. So I'm going to build up the sides here. When I glue the surgeon and the chair on the top, I was thinking about folding and using the good old trusty containers, but not in the way that you think. So I think about using them on the side walls. So rather than using them as the bases and the main part, if this doesn't work out, this is just a shabby looking building, maybe a house, I'm not entirely sure. And totally scrap that idea and then go my initial side-by-side section of the containers. But then it looks more like the Hab buildings from the Ash Waste, which isn't a bad thing, they are quite nice. But I don't want a roof on there. I don't want a permanent roof on there because I want to be able to see stuff inside. So who knows if I'm going to even like this, and I might not even edit this video. I might just scrap it and it goes into the massive pile of videos that Ross never finished off. I mean, that never happens. That never happens. Okay, so a bit of an update. So I've added a top piece on here with the containers. I'm hoping to have some plastic card, an angle there, there, and another angle there on that corner and that corner, and joining this section here. I did notice, however, there was a bit of a gap obviously between the two, so I've put one of the side pieces of the columns there, which is what I was aiming for anyway, to continue that kind of look. But on this side, the reason I've put the top part of the container is because on the inside I like the look that it looks kind of like a surgeon's like old-fashioned Victorian-y kind of surgery with tiles. So I'm going to paint that up white, make it look more like tiles, and obviously really dirty it up. As you can see, the focal point is the surgeon's chair, which is the objective marker, and the weird Necromunda surgeon, and a bucket, which I will put a load of green stuff, entrails and things like that hanging out of. You know, bits that people don't need, just chuck them away. Just slows you down really, doesn't it? Waiting for the plastic glue to go off completely, and then I'm going to trim that down so it's level with that. Initially I was going to have it encroach on that platform as a bit more rigidity, a bit more strength, but I realised that surgeon's quite far over. He'll need a bit of space to move around. So I've made that level with this platform, I'm going to make that level with this platform once the glue fully goes off. That's the sound of my door swinging about there. So I need to make something so this door doesn't swing outwards all the time. Only opens inside, I believe, because on the inside of these doors there's a sliding bolt. It wouldn't make any sense to slide outwards, right? I don't know. You tell me. Most doors to houses open inwards, and surgeries and shops and things like that, so I will endeavour to do the same. Obviously got a nice curtain there to hide any gump that's going on up the stairs, and I did a bit of an angle to make it a bit quirky. The light that I said I was going to potentially turn into a gas canister, I've found some gauges to go on there. So the gauges came from the columns and walls sprue again. So these, I've got hundreds of these now, so I cut a couple of gauges out and stuck them there. And I wasn't sure if that looked too standard, so I've made it a bit more grimdark, a bit more 40k, and stuck these spare pieces from the Servitor Ogren kit on the back. That's purely flavour, because I thought that looked more grimdarky, cyberpunky, than just having two gauges on there, because that looked kind of like eyes rather than gauges. Because really, on top of an oxygen cylinder, there should be a regulator. So I'm guessing these are some sci-fi regulators. Yes, I have to make sense when I'm putting my terrain together. But that's as far as I've got so far. I was even thinking possibly about cutting one of those open, having some kind of window on the side, because it's going to be rather dark. But I think I just like that too much, and it might encroach on the tiles and have a bit too much going on there. So possibly going to start making a few beds or benches in the waiting room there. It'd be nice to have like maybe a corpse or something on a waiting trolley with a sheet over it. It might be a bit too dark, I'm not entirely sure. I want the top to be majority open because it's the underhive, so you don't really need roofs. Because it's not like you're going to get rain really on you. It's probably not rain that's falling on you, so you probably do want some kind of cover, I guess. But we'll get there. I won't put too much over the top. I was thinking maybe something from the marketplace, a couple of these kind of bits possibly, or I might just use some of the good old-fashioned barricades and have it sloped, covering up a few patches, because I want the majority of it to be seen inside. I have stuck a swinging sign here from the marketplace as well, because I thought that would be pretty cool. And I've also got one of these, at some stage, one of these lamps to hang outside. The trouble is I am very wary that could possibly break. It's very thin, bit of plastic. But we will see, we will see. Still ideas are flowing. So that's where I'm at the moment. Possibly one of these next to the surgeon as a life support machine. I'm not entirely sure, there might be a bit too much going on up there, so I might leave that off, because I am quite loving the gas canister there. Okay, so put a few more finishing touches, like in the waiting room. I have a nice little bench in there, which was from the marketplace. Cut in half a locker of some kind. Door now looks a lot nicer, I feel, with a little light in the doorway there. A bit more of a door frame. It's just about got enough room for a model to move through. Maybe could have shaved that down to make it a bit more of a gap, but you can fit a 25mm base in there anyway. That's what the outside of it looks like. I've weathered it up in a few places with a drill to make it look extra specially rusty and Necromunda-y. Same on the other side there. On the inside, complete with a bucket of entrails. There's that gas canister. And I've also made, I didn't make it, I've get a bit more light in there, there we go. I've cut down that ammo crate and put in there as well. I think that's everything I'm going to do. Once it's all painted up, I will put some city radio posters in there or something, because I can imagine that's what's playing in the background while you're in the waiting room. I was thinking about maybe having this stuck to the wall as well, but I basically want to have space for miniatures to stand in there. One like over there-ish, and another one there. So I don't want to clutter it too much. I'm still unsure about whether to put anything on the top here. So it's not just a line of sight blocking piece of terrain, it is actually a piece of terrain that people can go in and out and maybe stand on the top of. Not sure. You know, if you had barricades and things like that, then yeah, I can see how it would be pretty good tactically for people to stand on top of, but then you're hiding the stuff inside. So I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to paint it up and make it nice and dirty and grimy and very, very rusty. Even if you're not great at painting or don't think you're great at painting, Necromunda terrain is really, really forgiving. So all I've done is blocked in a few basic colours. So all of my walls that I've painted so far have been this basic colour. That's just a baby blue with two different shades of, like, apparently a necrotic flesh tone. So just slightly brighter in the middle with an airbrush. And don't worry if it's not mega neat, because this next stage will tidy things up for you. And a slightly colourful, I'll turn the light down a minute, slightly colourful container colour. So I've just gone from like a really darky purpley colour, and I've left those holes there, those corrosion holes, for a minute. And a little bit of an accent colour here or there. So when it comes to terrain, very much like my miniatures, I find to make it more eye-catching and effective, have three basic colours. So I've gone with my purple, my blue and my creams. This time around I've gone, I would say cream is more of a neutral colour, it's not really a colour. So the red is probably the spot colour. So next stage is a little bit of streaking grime. So I like to thin it down slightly with a little bit of white spirit through my airbrush and coat the whole piece of terrain once it's dry. Some good old-fashioned Cornwall buds or Cornwall pads. Just take off the excess, and eventually I will make some rusted streak marks on any rivets and things like that. That's see fit. Once that's completely dry, then I do my object source lighting. So I have a very dark, grimy texture and then a bright light. So the bright lights, for example, there and there. So really dull down your piece of terrain. That's why I've gone with slightly brighter colours than I would normally, like the baby blue. So I'll get the little painting booth and I'll start with gloves. Yeah, I'm prepared for once. Using my streaking grime. Okay, so I think I've finished painting this guy up. So I'll just move the camera slightly. How's that? So I'll talk you through it. So get a bit of light on subject. We have a door that opens. I've used Rose and Craig's Rust Effects, which is a pretty nice two-part product. So there's my little open sign there, 24 hours opened. Doc fix it, better than new. So fair bit of rust. Like I said previously, I wanted it to be grubby in places and then bright with the lights. So you can see in there, the door flicks open, nice rusty wall. Some rust effects. I wanted the surgery to be really quite rusty, beaten up. One that looks like you'll catch tetanus or worse, and certainly leave in probably a state worse than what you entered. So a bit of a Lloyd Grossman for those who are of that age. through the keyhole. Got the waiting room just in there. Of course, you've got to have your Sump City radio poster just inside. And you have the leathery screen. And beyond that, you actually have the surgery itself. So, like I said, tiled wall section there. And in the surgery, we have the servitor dock. See if I can get out the light a little bit. There we go. With the blood pouring down the drain underneath the stretcher. First aid kit there. Pretty impressed with my gas cylinder. Some obviously more posters. And the rusty bucket of entrails. I'll put them back in later on, I'm sure. But yeah, I wanted it to be quite weathered, quite beaten up, and a little bit darker than I normally go with. So still keeping with the blue and deady flesh colour panels every now and again, because I still want it to be in keeping with the rest of my hive. But yeah, I wanted to make a terrain piece, like I said from the very beginning, that wasn't a base based on a shipping container or something like that. But I did end up using a shipping container in a manner I don't normally use. I wanted to try something different. But yeah, using the the Sector Mechanicus base instead. So I can have it either on the deck of my Zone Mortalis, or it fits really nicely in my Sector Mechanicus. So if I have another curved section going off that way, or the D shape there, or the normal walkways, gantries, this thing attaches quite nicely to it. So it's quite nice to have at the end of a terrain piece. So all the way right at the very end of the gantry, you do have the surgery. So yeah, I wanted to try a few different techniques, and reasonably happy with it. Hopefully you guys have learnt something, maybe not to do it this way, but yeah, a few little bits that you can do maybe, and experimented a little bit on painting the glass on the dock itself. So yeah, pretty chuffed with it. Nice and grubby, nice and weathered. A Necromunda Doctor's Surgery.